This is my new Volkswagen Caddy, a normal practical work van. It has two very comfortable front seats, a load of space in the back, but it only has this 75 horsepower diesel engine. Our goal in this video is to make this van as fast as possible by firstly taking out the engine, engine out, and replacing it with a much bigger engine. Then we'll try and start it, and just maybe we'll even get it driving. Now, before I show you what engine we've bought for the Caddy, there's something we've got to do first.
And that is a 0 to 60 test, because I want to compare the time that the van achieves now with the time that it can get at the end of the video after all of the work that we do to it.
So 3, 2, 1. And that's 60. What do we get?
17.8.
17.8. So yeah, this van is pretty slow. So to fix that, this is what we've bought. Here we have an Audi A3, and for many of you watching this, you might be wondering why on earth I've just bought this. But the reason is that from this point, the A-pillar forward, underneath the surface, this car is basically the exact same as our Caddy. And that means that whatever engine we've got under here, we can put it in our Caddy easy enough. Now, the weird thing about this A3 is that it actually has a bigger engine than the equivalent year S3. And for those of you who know your Audis, you'll know that they use S and RS in front of their models to sort of determine which ones are the sporty ones. So the RS3 and the S3 are the sportier versions, and the A3 is supposed to be a less sporty version. But this A3 has a much bigger engine than the S3 and the RS3. If I open up the bonnet, I can show you a 3.2 litre VR6 engine. This is arguably the best engine that Volkswagen made during this period. It takes turbo boost really well. You can get 400 horsepower out of these, no problem. And the eagle-eyed viewers among you will know that this engine is the exact same engine in the equivalent era Golf R, meaning that when we put this engine in our Caddy, we will basically be making a Caddy R, which I think is really cool. The reason why we went for the A3 instead of the Golf R is because this is a heck of a lot cheaper. So, in order to make a Golf R spec Caddy van or a Caddy R, we need to get the engine out of this and also the engine out of the Caddy. So where do we start?
Engine out of the Caddy.
Engine out of the Caddy. Let's do it.
Now, I brought this van for just £1,200, and on top of that, the Audi was only £2,000, meaning that so far, we have spent just 3.2k on this project, and if we end up with a 250 horsepower VR6 swapped Caddy van, I don't think that is too bad. Now, we do need to spend a bit more money on some parts from Volkswagen that we need to make this engine swap work, but I'll get onto that when we come to it. For now, we just need to focus on removing the standard diesel engine.
Let's go. Engine, take out. Process. Number one. Battery out. One battery removed. We're going to do the airbox.
That was an ultra kick.
Yeah. Okay.
The next thing to crack on with was to remove the subframe, but as you can see, it was pretty oily because this engine was leaking oil like no engine I've ever worked on.
Just take a look at how caked in oil this subframe is. It was horrible removing this because of how dirty it is, but now that's done, we can move on to taking out the drive shafts. One drive shaft. Drive shaft number 2. Now, because I don't really fancy battling with exhaust bolts, and we're not going to use this exhaust, we are just going to chop it off. And that is how the professionals do it. Look at that.
So now everything underneath the van has been removed, I can now focus on accessing the front of the engine, and to do this we need to remove the wheel arch liners, the front bumper and also the headlights.
There's our front bumper.
So after I had removed those parts, the next thing I had to work on was removing the whole front panel and rad pack. This includes parts like the AC condenser, the radiator and the intercooler. However, after making some initial progress with this, I then ran into a very seized AC pipe.
You actually do not need to go in the gym if you work on cars for a living. I promise.
This is the gym.
This is the gym. Oh, there we go, she's free. That was a battle and a half. It was a mental battle between me and the bolt.
The bolt lost.
The bolt did lose. Yeah, come on. This AC line. He's asking to get angle grinded off, but I'm like, no, I'm going to do it properly. Because what if we need to reuse these angles?
Exactly.
What if we need to reuse them?
And then they're angle grinded.
Good wiggle always. Come on. That's just been like seized on. This has been so corroded, which is why. There we go. Whoa. Look at that. That is why that wasn't coming off. And that's why the bolt was so hard to get off as well. Oh well.
It's off now.
It's off.
With old cars, it's always about staying persistent, and it's stuff like that that can set you back hours if you're not careful. However, now that was done, I could take that whole front panel off, which then allowed me to continue disconnecting the final bits in the engine bay. And don't forget, if you do enjoy these videos, make sure to like and subscribe because it massively helps out the channel. The final thing I had to disconnect was the ECU, which sits behind this sort of false bulkhead.
There we go. Okay, so here's our ECU. Just there. Should come off. There we go. Perfect. There we go. That is everything disconnected. That took way longer than it should have.
Finally.
Finally, right. Let's get it out.
So if you've watched the channel before, you'll know what technique we like to use when removing engines, and it's to put a pallet underneath the engine and then unbolt the engine mounts, which will then allow us to lift the van over the engine. Once the engine was out, I could then give the engine bay a quick clean because it was very dirty. And then I had to get the van back up on the ramp to reinstall the subframe. Alongside that, I had to get the wheels back on as well, because that would then allow me to roll the van off the ramp so that I could then get the A3 on the ramp to begin removing the engine out of that.
So that is our A3 up on the ramp, and now we can start removing the engine. But just a few things before we do so. Alongside this car having a Golf R engine, it also actually has the Golf R brakes. They are absolutely massive, and alongside it having Golf R brakes, it has all-wheel drive, meaning that this car is basically a Mark V Golf R32 with an Audi badge. It literally has Golf R brakes, all-wheel drive, and a Golf R engine. I mean, that is pretty much a Golf R. But anyways, because it is all-wheel drive, it means that we will have to disconnect the prop shaft, which lives above the exhaust, just there. And yeah, it's going to be a little bit more work to remove the engine, but it shouldn't be too bad. Now, just a quick thing. I know there are going to be a few people in the comments that are going to be sad that we are taking apart an Audi A3 to do this project. But there's a few reasons why we're doing it. Firstly, way more cost effective. For £2,000, we have everything here that we need to do the engine swap. Secondly, every single time we have tried buying an engine for a project that is just the engine by itself, 100% of the time, the engine has been like ruined, not good, buggered, unusable. The K20 with the Jazz, the Ford 1.8T with the Fox, and also the two 4E FTEs for the Serra. So we're not doing that again. We're, from now on, just going to be buying donor cars where we know the engine works. It's a little bit annoying that we've got to take cars off the road, but hey, that is the way the cookie crumbles. So with all that said, let's get this engine out.
Now, removing the engine out of the A3 is more or less the same process as removing the engine out of the Caddy. I started off with taking off the under tray, the wheel arch liners, and then followed by the subframe, and then followed by the headlights and the front bumper. Then I could move on to disconnecting the AC and coolant lines again, which would then allow me to remove that whole front panel, just like I did earlier on the Caddy. There was then a fair bit more disconnecting to do on the top side of the engine bay, stuff like the engine loom, the gear selectors, the clutch line, and also our fuel lines. Once all of that was done, we could then get the car back up on the ramp to remove the steering rack and the drive shafts.
They are. They're rusty. See the catch?
Getting closer.
Closer. One drive shaft. So we are nearly at the point where the VR6 can be removed. We've taken off our front rad pack and we've disconnected clutch lines and fuel lines and everything up at the top. Our drive shafts are out, our subframe and our steering rack is out, and we don't usually remove the steering rack when taking out the engine in any project we do, but we've done it this time because it gives us much better access to that prop shaft, which you can see up there, and it also allows us to remove the exhaust with the engine. So rather than unbolting the whole exhaust and removing it separately, we can actually keep this front section on the engine when the engine comes down and gets removed. So I just think that'll be easier. So we're nearly there now, and the next thing to get on with is the prop shaft. There we go, that was easy.
Once I had disconnected the prop shaft from the transfer box, I had figured out that this wouldn't be enough for us to remove this engine. The prop shaft would still be in the way. So I then had to remove the mid and rear sections of the exhaust, and that then gave me enough access to unbolt the prop shaft from the differential, which then allowed me to remove it.
Got it. I was just surprised that worked, to be honest. Alright, those can stay with the engine. Actually, can we disconnect it in the middle? Now we disconnect him. I knew a big enough yank would get it. Yeah. Don't know whether that's how the Audi techs do it, but
That's how the Jack McNeill text.
it is how the Jack McNeill techs do it.
After everything underneath the A3 was disconnected, I then could go back up to the top of the engine bay one last time to unplug the ECU, just like I did on the Caddy earlier. Now, the main difference when doing this was that there were security bolts holding in the ECU, which to remove, I had to use the angle grinder. The technique here was to make a small slit with the angle grinder in the security bolts, which then allowed me to use a flathead screwdriver to unscrew them.
There we go. There's one. There we go. Lovely. One ECU.
Now that the ECU is disconnected, the last thing to do was to feed the wires back through into the engine bay, and then we were finally ready to remove this engine.
Boom. Engine disconnected. Finally. Oh, that took a long time. We can now unbolt our engine mounts and drop out our beautiful VR6 engine. Let's do it.
So that is exactly what I got on with next, using the same technique that I did with the Caddy earlier.
So that is our 3.2 litre VR6 engine successfully removed from our A3. And this is just a massive engine. I cannot wait to get this fitted into our Caddy and hopefully running, but there are a few things that we have to do before we can even attempt that, and the main thing, the biggest job, is the wiring, and that's what we're gonna sort of start doing now. Basically, in our Caddy van, we have this, which is our sort of body wiring, which comes all the way down here to this section, which is where it connects up to the engine. And this wiring has a load of diesel stuff in it, basically, like the wiring for our glow plugs, for example. And obviously glow plugs are diesel only. So this obviously all has our diesel wiring. We need to swap that out with petrol stuff, which works with our 3.2 litre petrol engine. So we need to do that now, but obviously I know absolutely nothing about wires. So Dan has come down to give us a hand with all of this, and he's gonna start cracking on with that now.
Ooh, that sugar sweet, you got what I need. Sipping on the potion, all that good emotion.
So Dan from DW Automotive came down to help us basically do the tricky bit of this swap, which is of course that wiring which I mentioned. As for the process of doing this, Dan needs to strip the wiring loom from the A3 first so that he can use sections of that and transplant that wiring into the Caddy. Now Dan specialises in these Caddy conversions. He's wired up all sorts of engines into these vans, like the 2-litre turbo engines from the Golf GTIs, the 5-cylinder Audi TTRS engines, the 1.9 TDIs, the 1.8 turbos, and basically every interesting Volkswagen Audi Group engine of that era. So if any of you watching this have a Caddy and you want to do a similar conversion, I'll leave all of his information in the description of this video. Something else we had to do here was to remove the rev clocks from both the Caddy and the Audi, and then give them to Dan alongside both keys and both ECUs so that he could do some programming for the immobilizer.
Keep it on repeat, testify the motion, loving is devotion. Ooh, that sugar.
So it's been about a day and a half now of Dan attacking this wiring, and it is now pretty much at a point where it's finished. He hasn't completely taped up and insulated all of the wires, as you can see, because he wants us to get the engine mounted up, and then he can sort of check that all of the wires are the correct lengths. But other than that, it is pretty much finished, and we are there. And this is the aftermath of all of the wiring. It has been a pretty big job, but now that it's completely finished, well, pretty much completely finished, we can move on to all of the parts that we need to fit onto the Caddy before we even install the engine. Firstly, we need the full VR6 engine and engine loom, and of course, we already have that. It came with the A3. Secondly, the correct body loom wiring for the Caddy, plus the immobilizer coding. Now, Dan is in the middle of doing the immobilizer coding as we speak, and he's already done most of the wiring as you've seen, so that is done. Now, next, all of these parts here, all of these parts are the parts that we need to install into the Caddy before we even mount up the engine. And luckily, every single one of these parts we can use from the A3. Bits like our AC lines, our engine mounts, our brake servo vac line, all of these parts we already have. And that is one of the massive benefits of having this donor car. Rather than having to source all these parts separately, we already have them all, which is great, except for the full petrol fuel system. Now, of course, because our Caddy is a diesel, we need a petrol fuel system. And unfortunately, we can't just use the one out of the A3. It won't fit. So I've had to buy a brand new full petrol fuel system for a petrol Caddy from Volkswagen, and it cost a grand total of £1,137. Now, I'm putting some pans over the screen right now of what that includes. It's stuff like the fuel tank, the fuel pump, the fuel lines, the fuel basket, loads of little bits and bobs, and it has come to that figure, which means that if we don't have to spend any more on this project, we have got a grand total of £4,337 for our VR6 engine swapped Caddy, which is a lot of money, but I don't think it's too bad. So we have that. And then there are also some other bits like the front drive shafts, the subframe, the radiator, and all of these bits we need to install once the engine is fitted. And again, it all can be fitted from the A3, which again is massively helpful. So with all of that said, let's start getting this stuff swapped over.
So out of all of the parts that we need to install to the Caddy before fitting the engine, the first thing we're going to fit is the A3's gear selector. Now to remove the old gear selector, it's pretty simple. The first thing we have to do is to remove the center console. Next we can unbolt the gear selector. Then we need to go under the van to remove the exhaust heat shield, which will then allow the old gear selector to come out.
Cool, and there we have our old gear selector.
It's crazy. Then fitting the new A3 gear selector is just that exact process in reverse. And the technique that we devised to do this was to have Jav sat in the van up on the ramp, and then I would feed the gear selector up to him from underneath. And that would then allow him to bolt up the gear selector whilst I was supporting it.
Right out the window. There you go.
Oh,
Got it. Certified mechanic.
Certified.
once that was done, all that was left to do was to just get everything back together. Next, I wanted to sort swapping over everything in the engine bay, like these heater matrix adapter pipes, the AC lines, and also the engine mounts. As for doing the heater matrix pipes, they're pretty easy to swap over. There's just a metal clip that holds them into place.
Perfect.
The AC lines are also nice and easy. There's just a T40 bolt that holds in each line, and then the driver's engine mount also needs to be removed so the AC lines can be pulled out. The A3 lines can then be fitted in, and they are just a straight swap. And both the A3's engine mounts are also a straight swap over as well. The final things to swap over in the engine bay was the fuel feed line and the brake servo vac line. But once that was done, I could then focus on the fuel system.
Okay, so next up, we need to install our new fuel tank. And to do that, I'm thinking we have to remove this bottom wooden panel to access the top of the old fuel tank so that we can disconnect it from there and then remove it from the bottom. But also, I do just want to remove all of these wooden panels in the back here because they're not very pretty and they're definitely aftermarket. So we're going to remove all the wooden panels and then we can get on with removing our fuel tank.
Now, what I didn't realize at this point was that you actually can't access the top of the fuel tank from the back of this van like you can in practically every single car that I've ever worked on. So for the purpose of this engine swap, doing this is actually pretty pointless as it isn't going to help us fit the new fuel system. However, even after noticing this, I just got completely sidetracked with cleaning up the back of the van and making it look as perfect as I could because it was an absolute mess. So once Jav and I had removed all of the wooden panels and completely transformed the back of our van, we could then refocus on doing the fuel system. So the first thing I wanted to get done was to completely remove the standard diesel fuel system. That includes absolutely everything such as the fuel tank, the fuel filter and the fuel lines.
There we go. Oh, I didn't break it. Beautiful. In theory, it should come down. I think there may be a couple other things. Holding it on? I think it's just, yeah, it's just like the neck of the...
Yeah.
Get him on there. Look at that. Somebody say efficiency.
What a tool.
I mean, what a sick tool that is.
Very good.
Look at that. Da-da-da. Fuel tank. All right.
The next thing to do is to build up the new petrol fuel tank by installing the fuel pump and the carbon canister. Now, before getting this fuel tank fitted, I've firstly got to install the new fuel lines, and there's a black fuel feed line and a clear breather line to fit. And as for doing this, it is a fairly delicate job. We want to make sure to not accidentally break these fuel lines whilst fitting them, but as long as you're careful, it is fairly simple. After those fuel lines were in, the final thing to do was to install the new fuel tank. And this is actually a lot harder than you might think because we had to sort of twist the fuel tank around and do all sorts of acrobatics to get it into place. But once it was fitted, that was then all of the fuel system stuff done. Okay, so that is now absolutely everything installed onto the Caddy that we needed to install before fitting our engine. So now that is all done, we can work on moving our engine underneath the van and lowering the van over the engine and getting it mounted up. Well, there we have it. That is a Golf R engine installed into a Caddy van. I am so excited to hear this thing start up for the first time in our van, because the noise that these engines make, for those of you who know, it is a pretty crazy sound, and that coming out of a van is going to be mental. But before we can do that, obviously, there are a few jobs that we need to get on with, and the main one is to do with the wiring. And as you can see, as I mentioned earlier, Dan has left a few of the wires sort of exposed, and the reason why is that he needs to potentially lengthen them and shorten them. Now that the engine is in, he can know how long the wires need to be. So he's going to come and do that shortly. But then after that, it is literally just a case of getting everything back together.
So we are now at a pretty substantial milestone with the engine swap, with that beautiful VR6 now being mounted into the Caddy's engine bay, and we are definitely on the home straight with all of the work that we need to do. But as I mentioned, the first thing we can get on with now was the wiring that Dan needed to complete now that the engine was mounted up. Once Dan had finished his work with the wiring, he also installed the new coded rev clocks off camera, and then after he had done that, I could crack on with connecting everything in the engine bay up to our new VR6. One of the main things that we actually have to install from the A3, which I didn't mention earlier, is the A3's ECU. I could go ahead and connect all of the wiring up to that, and also get it mounted up with some double-sided tape. Next, I could crack on with connecting up the new gear selectors alongside the clutch line. We also had to make sure to bleed the clutch system as well, because I really want to drive the van by the end of this video. Now, all this process is doing is basically just removing the air that's got into the clutch line and replacing it with the hydraulic fluid that's needed to operate the clutch. And the method I'm using to do this is to open and close the bleed nipple whilst Jav presses and lifts the clutch pedal.
Up, down.
And once the clutch is fully bled, I can then move on to installing the exhaust.
This is going to be interesting. Right, come on. I can't even see it, like pitch black up there. Oh, can you actually like sneak? We can put him over there like that. That's the extension we're going for.
Now, as for bolting up the exhaust, it definitely wasn't easy, but this extension was the only way I could think of doing it.
Oh yeah.
So that's the front section of the exhaust fitted, and we're not installing any more exhaust in this video, so this van is about to be very loud. But once that was done, I could then move on to the drive shafts. Now, of course, like I mentioned earlier, these two front drive shafts which we're installing now are the ones that came off the A3.
Get him in there. Well, that is now our drive shafts fitted, and I just thought I'd clear something up because a few of you might be wondering what we're doing with the drivetrain on our Caddy, because the A3 was all-wheel drive, and you might be wondering, are we making the Caddy all-wheel drive? And the answer is no, because it is a lot of work. Essentially, what you've got to do is cut out the whole floor, weld an S3 or an A3 floor. I've heard some people sort of extend chassis legs. It is a heck of a lot of work, so we're not touching that today, probably ever. So we're just going to stick with putting in our front drive shafts, and what that means is that the sort of little prop shaft donut which used to connect up to the prop shaft on the A3 is just going to be left like that, and it's not going to be connected to anything, so it might be spinning around in there, but it's not going to do any harm. All of the power will now be going through those two front drive shafts. So I just thought I'd clear that up, but for now we can get on the subframe. So like I mentioned earlier, the subframe that we'll be installing on our Caddy is the one that comes on the A3. Now you can actually use the Caddy subframe for this engine swap. It does work perfectly fine. However, the A3 subframe is actually an upgraded subframe. It's made out of aluminium compared to the Caddy's cast iron one, meaning that it's a lot lighter, which will help our Caddy become even more of a race van.
Right, so we have found these two air filters in the corner of the unit, and we're going to see if one of them will fit onto our MAF sensor here. I've no idea whether this is going to work or not. Okay, that one is way too small. So no, that one is not going to work. I think that one is bigger, so my hopes are on this one. Will it fit? Oh, it's very close. I reckon with some persuasion that'll go on. Oh yes! Oh yes, right, we've got, I reckon, mate, if that fits, that is unbelievably lucky.
That is so good.
Mate.
Always keep your air filters.
Yeah, always have air filters just chilling at the unit. Oh. Air filter. I mean, also, that is like black on black. That looks really good. I am pleased with that. We'll just have him sitting in the corner. Battery there. Jobs are good.
So the next thing to do was to get the battery installed.
I'm not sure what I think about that air filter. The good thing is about the van is that the bonnet is so much higher than the top of the engine.
Oh yeah.
Like this, it's like way higher than the Audi. So
Loads of room.
So that can actually probably sit there for a bit like that. But obviously in the future what we want is it going like down there or something.
Yeah.
I think that'd be better. But for now, that will do. Right, shall we get the front on?
Let's do it.
Now, before installing the Caddy's front panel, I've firstly got to swap over the radiators. So the end product that we are after here is the A3's radiator fitted onto the Caddy's front panel, and luckily it is a straight swap. But once that's finished, I can then go ahead and get this new front panel combination installed onto the Caddy. And then the final thing to do is to get the headlights, bumper, wheel arch liners and the wheels fitted back onto the van to finish everything off.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I can finally introduce to you the Caddy R. It has been an absolute shift to get this in. I am an absolute state right now, but there are only a few jobs that we've got left to do before we can try and start this. Firstly, I want to quickly check the engine oil. Secondly, we need to get coolant in it. And thirdly, we of course need to put petrol in our lovely new fuel tank. So once those are done, we can give this a start.
So rather than be lazy and just check the engine oil, I decided that the best course of action for the longevity of our engine would be to do a proper oil change.
This is going to go everywhere.
And then it was just a case of filling up the coolant, then filling up the fuel tank, and then finally, after a mammoth amount of work, we could give the van a start.
Right, it is now the moment of truth, guys. We've got the key for our van, the engine's in, everything's connected up, the wiring's done, everything is done. We've got our engine oil, our coolant, our fuel's in the tank. It is now time to see if a Golf R engine will start in a van. I am pretty nervous. This has been a pretty strenuous engine swap. It's been very hot and it's been a lot of work, but I'm hopeful this will start. So let's turn the key and see what happens. Right. Okay, key in, the ignition. The lights are on. It's beeping at me.
But the van wouldn't even crank. I didn't know what was going on at this point, but there was a bit of a problem.
We getting anything?
Nothing is happening, no. What we might have to do is give Dan a call.
Potentially.
I think that's what's going, because, yeah, it's weird, it cranked. It did crank. When Dan was here last time, we literally quickly cranked it just to see if it would, and it did. So that's not doing it now is weird.
So I gave Dan a ring and he seemed to think that it was something wrong with an ECU connection. You see, a few days prior I had actually lost a small little purple clip that is designed to hold the wires into the ECU plug. And Dan's theory was that because we didn't have that, the wires pinned into that ECU plug had unplugged slightly. And after investigating this, he was absolutely right. So I just had to make sure that the wires were properly pressed into the plug as I connected the plug up to the ECU, and after I tried that, I thought I could give the start another go.
That sounds a bit more promising. Okay. Okay, so now it's cranking. Okay, so that was the problem. So it was a loose connection on the ECU, which is my fault because I disconnected it and reconnected it a load. But we are now cranking. So this should take a while for the fuel to get to the engine, but I do want to crank it a few times just to make sure it's got oil pressure as well.
So after connecting up the battery pack, we could start cranking over the engine. Now, I wasn't expecting the engine to start up straight away. I was expecting 30 seconds or so of cranking in order to get the fuel through the fuel system and into the engine.
Okay. So it's cranking, but it just hasn't got any fuel, which, I mean, it makes sense why it doesn't have any fuel, because I still think it's just going up, but
how long will it take?
How long does it take? I don't know. I've never done this before. I've never tried to start a car with like a completely dry fuel system, so I don't know how long it will take.
But after cranking for what seemed like years, the engine still wouldn't start.
I don't know whether the fuel pump's priming. Is it like the Fox? Remember?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember you had to open the door? Interesting. I feel like it should have come through by now. I don't know. I feel like it should have. Well, I think we definitely know what the problem is. I think the problem is no fuel. Like, that's definitely the issue. I think the wiring's perfect now that we've fixed that little ECU thing.
Yeah.
I think everything is going to work, but it's just not getting fuel. So it's whether, have we installed everything correctly? I mean, there's no fuel leaks underneath the car. So my only thing is like, A, is the fuel pump priming and is the fuel pump actually doing its job? And if it is, then is the fuel, maybe the fuel just isn't, it's not there yet. Maybe we just keep going. I don't know.
I'm not sure, it's hard to tell.
But the truth is, I was clutching at straws with this explanation. I really had no idea what was going on. I did quickly remove the fuel feed line in the engine bay just to double check that my theory of no fuel was correct. And when I took it off, lo and behold, there was absolutely no fuel in the fuel lines, meaning that our engine just wasn't getting any fuel. But even with knowing that, my question was why? So to investigate, we removed the fuel pump from the fuel tank to test to see if it works. Now, it was a brand new fuel pump, so there's no reason why anything should be wrong with it, but there is a chance that it could have been defective, so we wanted to test to see if it works when putting some current to it.
What is wrong with you?
Work,
mate. In my expert opinion, it's fine. I don't know, it looks fine. Why is it not working? You can hear that? Very, very faint little noise. We'll do it again. So that confirms to us that the fuel pump does in fact work, which makes sense because it is brand new. So that means that there isn't, like, everything in here works. It means that there's no current going to that plug, which would indicate either well, the only thing I can think is that a fuse is gone, or a relay's not working or something. It's got to be a fuse.
So lucky for me, Dan was just around the corner when I discovered this, meaning that he could quickly come and test all of the fuel related circuits with his multimeter to find out exactly what was happening here. And as it happens, there was a fuse in the wrong location in the fuse box, which makes complete sense.
Okay, so after some investigative work by myself and Dan, who's come around to give us a hand, we are now at the point where we think the Caddy will start because we turned the key over and we heard the fuel pump prime. Essentially what was wrong, we think, again, not 100% sure whether this is going to work, but we think that there was a fuse in the wrong location in the fuse box. So we've swapped it over now and we're going to see if it starts. Come on, Van. Come on. Oh my god, I can't hear my thoughts.
That is insane.
That is crazy.
She's good to go.
She is good to go though. Oh, we're gonna have to drive that on the road to do our 0 to 60.
God damn it.
Is that louder than the Fusion? I think it is.
I think it is. Definitely.
Bro, on idle, it is. It's like, it sounds like a high fuel dragster, doesn't it? It's like. That is antisocial.
That is the loudest van.
That is antisocial. But yeah, this is gonna be I think I set off some car alarms. I actually think I set off some cars. Anyways, it is now time to go and take the Caddy R out for a drive. Let's see how far it is. Yeah, it's maiden voyage.
It's maiden voyage.
Let's see how fast it is. I am really scared. I don't think I've driven anything. I think this beats the Fusion for like just a ridiculous amount of noise. Oh my god.
Even in here it sounds so loud. Because it like echoes in the back.
Yeah, it like echoes in the back of the van, doesn't it? Right, little second gear pull. This is sick!
This is the best work, man.
This is so cool, man. Oh my god. This is the coolest van. This engine is awesome.
It's so fast.
It's actually quick as well, isn't it?
So fast. My bum is vibrating on the seat.
Literally. Mate, you get a lot of bum vibrations with this engine. Oh my god.
Holy moly.
Right, big pull round this corner. Let's do it. First gear pull. Oh my god! This is ridiculous.
Making me scream like a little girl. This car.
Bro, this thing is fast. This thing is actually fast. This thing is fast. God. Oh my god.
This is nuts.
This is ridiculous.
Oh.
My heart is actually racing right now.
Makes me fear for my life.
Mate, I'm gonna need like a 2-week holiday to recover from this first drive.
This is crazy.
Right. Do you reckon we do our 0 to 60?
Yes, let's do it.
Let's see how much the van
has improved its 0 to 60 time. I'm thinking it's going to be quick as hell.
Absolutely, yeah.
Let's do it. 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, I forgot to tell you, mate, we went way past 60 then. I forgot to, alright, we've got to do that again.
You're enjoying it too much.
Mate, I was enjoying driving that too much. I forgot to tell you when to stop.
I looked over and I saw like 7. I was like, oh my god, we need to stop it, but it's definitely in the 6s. Holy shit.
This thing is so sick. Oh my god. 3, 2, 1, go. 6.9, and I shifted just before 60 miles an hour, so I reckon that we'll be able to get that way quicker. But ladies and gentlemen, that is a massive chunk off the initial 0 to 60 time of like 17.8 or something.
Yeah.
This isn't a normal van, because in the previous video, we installed a 3.2 litre VR6 engine. To do this, we had to remove the old 1.6 diesel engine, and then we could install the VR6 with a load of donor parts from an Audi A3. And it's safe to say, the result was epic. Oh my god! But we are nowhere near done, because we want to create the ultimate Volkswagen Caddy. And to do this, we've picked up a load of Golf R parts to completely transform our van. From a brand new exhaust, stuff to fix this boring interior, to improvements to the suspension and brakes, and a whole lot more, all in the hopes of building the performance version of the Caddy that Volkswagen never made. Now, the first thing we're going to address is the exhaust, because if you remember from the previous video on our van, basically, we have no exhaust, and this is what it sounds like. That is antisocial. I think we can all agree that is too loud, so we've come down to the exhaust company to create a brand new stainless steel custom exhaust.
Well, it makes sense to make it look like an R32, as it's got an R32 engine.
So essentially, we put the R32 engine in, and the R32, I'll put it on the screen now, has 2 big center sort of exhaust tips, and that is what we're going to do. We're going to cut a hole in this, you think?
Under here and under here.
So with our plan in mind, we could get the van in the unit and on the ramp.
Okay, so if you can remember, this is where we left the exhaust in the previous video. We have 2 cats here, but then there is no rest of the exhaust. So we need to build a full custom section with a Y pipe that joins these 2 together, and then it needs to go all the way around, up here, and then we're gonna do like a sort of an R32 style exhaust tip. So let's get started.
So to get the new exhaust built, the guys could start by making the new midsection. And as I mentioned, this needed a Y pipe and also a whole lot of TIG welding. Once the midsection was made, Josh could then get it fitted on. Then it was time to create our new rear section. And to do this, Lav could firstly start off by making the new silencer. And at this point, Josh could also make the new R32 style exhaust tips as well. And to make these exhaust tips sit properly in the bumper, we also had to cut out some holes for them. But then we could finally get the new rear section fitted on, and the guys at the exhaust company could finish up the job by welding on the exhaust hangers.
Okay, Lav, when you're ready.
That sounds sick.
So that is the exhaust done. Now, another thing you might have noticed about the van is that it doesn't have the bonnet. And the reason why is because firstly, we crashed the bonnet into the roof. As you can see here, there's a big dent. And also, there is a big hole that I had to make because the bonnet latch came undone and I couldn't take up the bonnet. So I had to reattach the cable through that hole. So we can no longer use this bonnet, which is a bit annoying. However, we have this new one. It is white, but we're gonna be painting the van anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Let's get this on. Okay, so next thing we need to sort is the ride height, because our Caddy is sat very high. This is not a race van. On the rear, it's even worse. I mean, literally that is massive. So, I bet you can't guess what we've got to sort that out, Jav. You'll never guess.
Literally got no clue, mate.
No idea.
No
Well,
idea.
I bet you guys don't know either. For those of you who watch the channel regularly, you will know that we absolutely love BC Racing coilovers. These are amazing, 32-way adjustable, really well built. If you want to pick up yourself a set, you can check out the link in the description box below. But yeah, these are gonna completely get rid of that wheel arch gap. And they're gonna make our van look like a proper sports van. So let's go ahead and get these on.
At this point, you guys are probably sick to death of seeing me fit BC Racing coilovers to my builds, but honestly, when something is so reliable and it always works, why on earth would you change it? And this van is absolutely crying out for a sportier stance, so fitting these is a no-brainer.
That's been in there for 200,000 miles.
And also, as you'll see later on, installing these coilovers is not as simple or as straightforward as you might think, because on the rear, this van has completely different suspension that I've never worked on before, which I'll get onto. But firstly, let's get both of the front coilovers installed.
Now the front coilovers are fitted, we can move on to the rear. Now, this is going to be a little bit different to any coilovers we've ever fitted on the channel, and that is because this van has leaf spring suspension on the back. Let me show you. So here are our leaf springs, what I was talking about, and this is obviously going to be a bit of a different process to lower this compared to your classic spring and shock. Now, on this leaf spring setup, I'll show you, our shock is here. That is our shock just there. And then the leaf spring goes from all the way here and it sits on top of the rear beam and it goes from there all the way to there. Now, to lower this van, what we have to do is basically put this leaf spring underneath the rear beam. It's currently sat on top of the rear beam. We want to sit it underneath the rear beam. And BC, in their kit for this van, they supply us with some pretty cool stuff to do that. So firstly, we have this. Basically, these studs and these plates are basically what's going to secure the leaf spring underneath the rear beam. So that'll sort of be sat under like that somewhere. And then secondly, we've got a shock, which looks a bit more familiar, and that will sort of replace the shock that's there, just like that. And then lastly, we have these. These are little plates, and what these plates do is they sort of will sit up there, sort of like that. And on these plates, they have like these little holes, and that is how you actually adjust the ride height through those holes. Bottom one's gonna be highest, top one's gonna be lowest, I think. So yeah, that's how we do it. It's a little bit different to normal. I've never done it before, but let's give it a go.
So I could start this whole process by removing the left-hand shock.
There's one old shock.
The next thing on the to-do list is to remove the leaf spring.
There we go. Oh yeah. Oh, look at that.
Wobbling.
Moves the whole wheel.
But it wasn't long before I discovered a genius design from Volkswagen.
Okay, so because they've got the bolts going in and the bolts have to go that direction to come out, right?
Yeah.
They've had to put these little rubber bungs in so that when you undo the bolt, it can go into that hole. They designed that rather than having the bolt come out that way. There's got to be a reason why. There he is. So you got to take them out first. It's like the design team just designed it like this, and then the mechanics looked at it and thought, you can't pick them bolts out, mate. And they're like, it's okay. We'll put these rubber bungs in the chassis rather than just, I don't know. Now that can come out. Come on. Hey. Ta-da. There we go. Oh, that's fallen off. Got it. And there is our leaf spring. So now it will, basically what we want is we want it to sit like that. That's what I was explaining earlier if you didn't quite understand the gist.
But with the passenger side leaf spring now removed, I could then move on to taking out the driver's side.
All done.
Now, whilst we could just go ahead and install the rear kit onto the van now, I decided at this point that I wanted to give the rear beam and all of the rear suspension components a proper refurb, as it's looking pretty rusty and dirty, and I couldn't stand to put the new parts onto a dirty rear beam. So to do this, we had to remove the rear beam entirely. Once both leaf springs and the rear beam were all removed off the van, we could then start with the refurbishing. So before getting started on the rear beam, I firstly had to completely strip it down. So now the rear beam's been completely stripped, Jav and I could go ahead and clean up all of the surfaces with wire brushes. And it goes without saying, but this is a painstakingly long job that requires a lot of patience and perfecting to get it right. And once we were all finished up with the wire brushing, we could give the rear beam a clean with some brake cleaner. And then we could get it set up and ready for paint alongside all of the other parts that we'd prepped. And then to get started with the paint, the first layer to go on was the etch primer. And once I'd finished up with the etch primer, the final stage was to apply a few coats of gloss black. After I'd finished up with the paint, everything was just looking so much better.
Okay, so that is the painting side of the refurb now done, and the rear beam is looking so good. But now we have all of these lovely new parts to fit onto the rear beam before we can install it back onto the van, and then we can finally get the coilovers fitted as well. So we've got the new brake dust cover here, we've got new hubs, for no reason other than they look good. That's literally the only reason I bought them. And we've refurbed the anti-roll bar as well, so that looks lovely. We've got new bolts, new drop links as well. So lots of cool stuff here to make this rear beam look practically brand new. Let's get it all assembled.
So we are really on the home straight now of getting this rear beam completely refurbished and ready to go back on the van. As I mentioned, we firstly got to get everything reassembled. And to be honest, this is the most satisfying part of this whole process, because seeing it all come together and just how good it looks with all the brand new parts, it is definitely very satisfying. I think we can all agree that the rear beam now looks sensational, but before we get it back on the van, there's a few jobs that I want to do first, starting with shortening our bump stops. And once that's done, there's a bit of cleaning I wanted to do as well.
So we are now technically ready to get the rear beam reinstalled with our lovely new coilovers, but before we do that, I actually want to give everything under here a lovely, nice clean. A lot of you get at me in the comments for not cleaning, so we're going to do it. We're going to get everything under here looking as clean as possible. It's not going to be perfect, okay, but we're just going to clean it up, make it look better. So that's the goal. We've got these brushes to agitate everything, and then this bucket of soapy water. We're just going to go ham, me and Jav, we're just cleaning this, so let's do it.
Once the underside was clean, we can install the leaf spring shackles, followed by the leaf springs themselves. And then we could get the rear beam and the BC kit fitted all together at the same time. Now, as we're doing this, we're making sure to install the leaf springs below the rear beam with all of the relocation plates. And after finishing everything up, it was looking incredible.
Well, there we go. That is the rear beam refurb now complete with our BC Racing shocks on the rear with the whole relocation system for the leaf spring. The leaf spring, of course, was on top originally, but now the leaf spring is sat lower and it is through the second top hole on our rear shackles. We've also got the new drop links in there, the new BC shocks in there, and the rear beam is just looking so good with that black paint. And yeah, I'm just loving this. Like the new hubs, it just looks like a brand new rear beam. I am so pleased. So yeah, now that is complete and looking amazing, we can move on to the next thing, which is a set of brakes. Well, if our Caddy wasn't already a race van, it definitely will be after we install these brakes. This is our big brake upgrade for the van, and all of this stuff is the exact same setup that you'll find on the Golf R32. The same car which we styled the exhaust off, this is the exact brake setup you'll find on that car, and the brake calipers are absolutely massive. I mean, just look at how big they are. This is going to be a huge upgrade. This is going to give us so much more stopping power. I mean, just look at the size of that brake disc. I mean, it's absolutely huge. We've got some EBC Blue Stuff pads here, which are a really good pad, really solid brake pad. Again, the massive turbo groove discs with dimples and grooves, and all of these calipers as well have been freshly refurbished by the guys down at 360 Alloys in this gorgeous gloss black. I just wanted to go for an understated vibe with the brakes, and I think the gloss black looks amazing. So yeah, I can't wait to get all of this stuff fitted. I think we're going to start with the rears. Let's get cracking.
Now, if any of you are after wheel refurbishments or bodywork done to your car, then make sure to contact 360 Alloys with the link in the description. They always smash it with these refurbs. But as for installing these new rear brakes, if you're wondering how on earth I can just install them, it's because these brakes are a straight swap. You can literally just bolt these brakes on with no modification. But once I'd installed the first side, I could then finish up the rears by installing the next side.
So that is the rear brakes now fitted, and there is just something very satisfying about having a refurbished brake caliper with new brake discs, new brake pads, new hubs, new hub nuts, a brand new refurbished leaf spring with your BC coilovers and your relocation plates that are all shiny, the new shocks, the new drop links, the anti-roll bar that's been refurbed, the custom shiny exhaust. It just looks so good under here. This has been a lot of work, but it is just coming together so nicely. Now we can move on to the fronts. This is going to look even cooler.
And that's because the new brakes we're about to replace these old ones with are absolutely massive. But before getting into fitting them, I, again, firstly wanted to give the wheel arches and our old hubs a proper clean up with some soapy water and some wire brushes. And also, if you could do me a favour and subscribe if you enjoy the videos, that would be much appreciated. Once that was done, it was then time to get our new huge front brakes installed. And whilst I was cracking on with one side, my mate Tom was doing the other.
So that is our brake upgrade finally finished, and just take a look at how awesome this is. It is absolutely massive. That is the world's biggest set of brakes ever fitted to a van. And we've cleaned everything as well. It looks so good in here. The coilovers are now clean, everything behind there. Not that you can really see it, but it's all nice and clean, and it just looks so good. Like, that is 10 out of 10. I'm so pleased with how those brakes turned out. They are just huge. Now, the only problem with our brake setup is that currently we haven't sorted out brake lines. As you can see, they are just dangling down, and that is because I wanted to get all of the brakes fitted onto the car first, just to see how the lines sort of measured up. And I've got an idea now about what we need, but I haven't ordered the brake lines, so we're going to have to wait until a future video to get that sorted out, because I don't want to spend any more time on these brakes. But they do look amazing, and when we get them working, they are going to give this van a whole lot more stopping power. But now that's done, there's an even more exciting thing we get to do, and that is to fit the new wheels onto the van, and they look incredible. Let me show you. So these are the wheels that we are going for on the van. They are absolutely gorgeous. These are a set of Golf R Pretoria alloys. I just think these are gonna look absolutely gorgeous. They've been refurbished before I bought them. They've also been wrapped in Accelera 651 tyres, which I bought from Tyre Street. You can use my discount code on the screen right now, by the way, if you wanna get some money off tyres from Tyre Streets. But yeah, these Acceleras are nice, sporty tyres. They're gonna give us the grip that we need in the corners. But these wheels are the main party piece. They look so good. Now, to quickly address something, I know a lot of you are gonna be annoyed that I'm not doing R32 wheels because we've gone for a full R32 theme with this van, with the engine and the exhaust and the brakes. But I just think these wheels look a load better and I prefer them. So I know I'm mixing generations, but I just think these are gonna look better and I'm gonna prove it right now. Let's get them on. They look so good. Take a look at these wheels. If that isn't the most gorgeous wheel choice.
So after getting the other 3 wheels fitted onto the van, the last thing to do was to lower it down to the floor to see what our fitment was like.
This is where we find out if the fitment still is as good when we go down, and if the coilovers have been set to the perfect height. This is where we find out everything. Oh. No.
I'm pretty pleased with that.
Look at how that is sitting. That has got to be perfect. That, like the rears. Let's have a look at the rears.
I call that functional.
Yeah, I mean it could go lower definitely, but I quite like the fact that the rear has a little bit more arch because you can still put stuff in the back. Look, wait, hang on. Just look at how much better. Wait, look at how that is sitting right now. Mate, this actually looks so good. Like, this genuinely looks unbelievable. This is the best van ever. Can you imagine when this has got British, well, we're gonna paint it in the next video, British Racing Green paint. We've got the brake lines sorted. It has an R32 engine with those massive brakes, the coilovers, and it's got a British Racing Green paint job and a hybrid bumper, which will be fitting in the next video as well. It's gonna be sick.
I'm excited. Like,
This is a good van.
this was a good van before.
Yeah.
Now it's a really good van.
Mate, look at it. I can't believe how good that looks.
So after obviously being very happy with how these wheels turned out, I could move on to the final modification that we'll be installing on the van in this video, and that is these seats.
So these are a set of Mark 7 Golf R seats. Now, these, again, like the wheels, are not off the correct generation. They're not off the Mark 5 R32 like all the other mods we've done. But again, there is a reason why I went for these over the Mark 5 seats. If you take a look at this picture I'm putting on the screen right now, firstly you can see how beautiful the Mark 5 seats are. They're these gorgeous wingback Recaros, but the downside is that they're $2.5, $3 grand. They are just so expensive. So I thought I'd cut some costs and go for these Golf R seats, which also look a bit more comfortable. These ones are in really good nick. They've got Alcantara and yeah, they were £400, so a lot cheaper. So that's the reason why we went for these. Let's get them in and see what they look like.
So to install our new seats, the first job is to, of course, remove these horrible old ones. I also had to remove the seat bases, and on top of that, I wanted to give the floors a good clean as well.
Okay, so as for actually fitting these new seats, we can't just bolt them straight into the Caddy, unfortunately. We've firstly got to install something else, and that something else is these seat bases. Now, these seat bases have come straight out of a Volkswagen Touran, this car on the screen right now, and a lot of people in the Caddy scene will know about this upgrade. Basically, these Touran seat bases will allow a load of different Volkswagen seats to actually bolt straight into the Caddy. So it's a relatively simple swap. We just bolt those two seat bases in first, and then hopefully the bolt holes on the Golf R seats will line up and we can just bolt them straight in.
So that's what I got on with next. I could start with getting those seat bases bolted in first. And then our new Golf R seats could go in.
Well, there we have it.
the Caddy R is coming along leaps and bounds. This van just looks absolutely beautiful, and we're gonna make it look even better in the next video because we are doing the paint job, as I've mentioned. It is an absolute mammoth job, and it's gonna be an even bigger job on a vehicle this big. So if you don't wanna miss that, make sure to like this video and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because it massively helps out and it will make sure that you don't miss any future videos. This is my 2010 Volkswagen Caddy. And it's already gone through a crazy transformation from a 1.6 diesel work van to this 3.2 litre VR6 engine swapped super van. Oh my God! A couple of months back, I had the vision to build the performance version of the Caddy that Volkswagen never made. And to do this, we've not only installed that new engine, but we've also fitted new wheels, seats, brakes, suspension, and an exhaust, all inspired by different generations of the Golf R. But today, we are giving the van its biggest upgrade yet by doing a full paint job, and by the end of the video, you'll see the whole transformation from this boring looking work van to a complete one-of-one Caddy R. But why do I even want to do this? Well, to tell you the truth, I have a bit of an obsession. I absolutely love taking cars that people might overlook or might think are boring and transforming them into complete one-of-one builds with a load of crazy modifications and, most importantly, a lot more power than standard. It's just my favourite thing to do on cars, I don't know why, and to do these builds we need a lot of different parts that are generally sourced from all different areas of the country. And what better way to go and get these parts than in your dream parts van? That's why I want to build this Caddy, to create the ultimate comfortable parts van that I can not only use as a daily, but also on those long drives to go and get parts. So, let's get started. Now, for those of you who have been watching the channel for a while, you'll know just how much work goes into one of these paint jobs. We're going to have to completely strip the van back to almost a bare shell, and then we're going to have to repair all of the damage in the bodywork before prepping the surface for paint. And then finally, we can take the Caddy to the paint booth, get it painted, and then bring it back to the unit and get everything back together. And all of that is a lot easier said than done. Which is why I've got my friend Lav. Lav has decades of experience prepping and painting cars, and together we've done 3 paint jobs on the channel: the Jazz Type R, the Fox GTI, and most recently, the Ford Fusion. All of these projects came out amazingly, and Lav was absolutely carrying the team all 3 times. Right, what is our first step?
First step is to go around with the Sharpie and mark up some dents. There's a small dent on this corner.
Now, the most time-consuming part of any paint job is all of the prep work you've got to do at the start. And the first part of the prep work is to locate where all of the dents are on the bodywork, and our van has a heck of a lot of dents.
If you could rate the van out of 10, 10 being a perfectly clean one and 1 being an absolute mess, what would you rate it?
4.
4?
A good 4.
Now, because of the sheer amount of body repair work that needs to be done, Lav started cracking on with it straight away, whilst I could begin the strip down. The reason why this prep stage is so important is because new paint will actually make any tiny little dents in the bodywork way more obvious. And on these back doors, there were a load of dents, so a lot of filler was needed to make these look perfect. And whilst Lav was getting on with the skillful job, I was cracking on with stripping down the front of the van and also the doors. Now, with stripping down the doors, I not only want to take out the door cards, but also the inner door card with the window regulator and the window glass as well. Meanwhile, the filler that Lav had applied earlier had dried, so he could begin sanding that back with the DA sanding tool. Once he was done with that, he could move around to the sliding door and rear quarter because those areas needed a lot of work as well. And meanwhile, I was stripping down the passenger door. These tiny little windows at the front also had to come out. And to make the rear doors even smoother, Lav could apply a layer of glaze as well. And once that was dry, that had to get sanded back too. Progress is being made. The front is relatively stripped. Obviously, we still need to take out the engine and do a load in the engine bay. The doors
are completely stripped. The driver door over there and also the passenger door over there is stripped. And Lav has done a great job in making the rear doors nice and flat with a load of filler work. Now, because this van was previously owned by probably someone who used it every day as a work van, this thing has been absolutely caked in bruises. It is so badly dented. It's the worst thing we've ever done on the channel for a paint job, and we've had to use a load of filler, as you can see from this back door and over here. But we are making some good progress. Let's keep going.
So the few jobs that I wanted to get on with next was firstly removing the residual adhesive from the side mouldings. And to do this, I'm using a drill and an attachment called a toffee wheel. And of course, both sides needed doing. And meanwhile, Lav was on to fixing the wings because these also had a load of dents in them, and he started off with the panel beating hammer before then again moving on to the filler. And then he could do the bonnet, whilst I could begin stripping the rear of the van, so stuff like the taillights and the rear bumper. And the roof rack had to go as well. And then to be pretty much done with this stage of the prep, Lav could finish up the filler work and sanding on the passenger side, and then the driver's side. But because there was such a big dent on the rear quarter of the driver's side, we had to go out and buy quite an expensive new tool to get this done properly.
We've got a new toy, haven't we,
We
Lav?
do have a new toy.
What? Okay, explain it to me, because I've bought this, but I don't really know what it does.
It's basically a really small welder that attaches to some pins and different fittings.
Yeah.
You can pull dents out with it, you can shrink metal with it. It's got loads of different uses, but basically it's for panel beating.
So why do we need it on our Caddy?
Because this Caddy actually has a small dent round the rear.
A very large dent. So we've got a massive dent basically, and we need to pull it out, or else we'd have to use a load of filler.
We'd need to put a lot of filler in it. We don't mind putting a lot of filler in. We don't want to put deep filler in. So we don't mind it having a nice small skim, but we don't want an inch of filler in the wheel arch.
So this basically is going to help us pull out the big dent in this quarter panel, and then that will allow us to use less filler to get the perfect finish.
Correct.
So what actually do you do?
Press this button.
Yeah.
That welds that to the panel.
That tacks it.
That tacks it to the panel. You get a small slide hammer on here.
And that pulls it out. That's quite clever actually, isn't it?
So Lav could get as much of this dent pulled out as he could before then finishing up the filler work and the sanding.
So that is stage one of the prep work now complete, and the van is looking a load better. That is all of the repairs and the filler work now done. And there is one specific section that I want to show you, and it is this wheel arch. Lav spent a load of time getting this right with the shape with the filler, and it just looks so good. This is a piece of artwork. I have to say, that is very impressive. But now all of the filler work is done, we can move on to the next step. And the next step is the high build primer step. Now, if you've watched paint job videos on the channel before, you will know what this step does. But basically, because we've applied all this filler, which is porous, we need to apply high build primer over the top of it, because that high build primer will actually fill in all of those little microscopic holes which is in the filler. And then once the high build primer is dry, we can sand it back, which will make a perfectly smooth surface to paint on. And that's what will help us get the best finish possible on this van over those sections that have had filler. So that is the next stage. Let's get on with it.
So before applying the high build primer, we firstly got to get all of the surfaces degreased. And we've also got to mask up all of the areas that we won't be applying the high build primer to. And also, I wanted to make sure to protect all of the other projects as well. And then it was time for Lav to apply 2 or 3 coats of the high build primer. Once the high build was dry, Lav could then go ahead and get it all sanded down.
So that is all of the highballed primer now sanded down, and we've got the van on the ramp ready to take out the engine. That is the next job. And the reason why we need to take out the engine is because, like all of the paint job videos we do, we like to do it properly. We are going to completely paint this engine bay in the colour. So we've got to take the engine out. Let's get started.
So to get this big VR6 engine out of the van, my mate Ollie has come down to give me a hand, and the first thing on the to-do list is to drain the coolant.
Beautiful. Perfect. Look at that.
So after removing the front panel, the next thing to take off was the subframe. We could also disconnect the exhaust.
There we go. Nice. There we go. Perfect.
And then we could remove the drive shafts. Then Ollie and I could just systematically go through all of the little bits and bobs that needed to be disconnected and removed. Stuff like the gear selector cables, the wiring loom, some coolant lines, the ECU. And once all of it was disconnected, the engine could come out.
It's out. It is out. That is, I mean, that was probably the most bodged way I've ever removed an engine. But I remember that's why we took the exhaust off the last time.
Yeah.
Because of the steering rack, but also the prop shaft made it hard. So that is our engine out. Thank you for the help. It wasn't too bad, was it?
No, not too bad at all. Got it out, didn't take too long.
We did a bit of an interesting method to get it out, didn't we?
Yeah, just a bit.
Just yanking it out. But that is the engine now out. The next job is to strip apart the engine bay. But before I get on with doing that, I wanted to show you something else which I've bought for the Caddy, and it is these new bumpers. Now, this front one is actually something called a hybrid bumper, which is basically where you take two bumpers and you chop them to bits and plastic weld bits of them together to make one bumper. This one uses a Mark 7 Golf GTI front bumper and a Caddy bumper to make one hybrid bumper, and then this one is just an aftermarket one in the R32 style with the exhaust tips. I think these two bumpers are going to make a huge difference to the way the Caddy looks once it's been painted, and I am so excited to get this on the car when it's all back together. But before doing that, all of this stuff has to be prepped, and that is going to be Lav's job whilst I am stripping the engine bay. But also, we actually have one more thing, which I forgot to show you, and it is some new wing mirrors. These are called Caddy Life wing mirrors, and they are a huge upgrade from the weird ear shape looking wing mirrors that you get on the standard Caddy. These look loads better. So alongside the bumpers, those wing mirror caps have got to be prepped, and yeah, that is the next job. Let's get on with it.
So as I mentioned, my next job was to completely strip the engine bay so that it was ready for me to start prepping it later on, and meanwhile Lav was prepping up the bumpers.
One hand on a bottle, she got one hand on a gun. She squeezed that trigger, you as good as done. I should be running from you, darling, now tucking them.
But as Lav was prepping up the front bumper, he was noticing a very big problem.
We're having a bit of a problem with this bumper, aren't we?
Yeah.
Do you want to explain what's going on with it?
So the bumper's full of fiberglass and filler, and it's cracking everywhere.
And what does this mean for our prep? What does it mean?
It means we're taking this back to plastic and starting again.
And how many hours is this going to take?
Many 10 hours, 12 hours possibly.
Annoyingly, this means we actually are going to have to paint this at a later stage because we are on a bit of a time crunch with getting this van to the paint booth. But either way, I had just finished stripping the engine bay, so I could go ahead and start prepping this up with some water and Scotch pads.
Like good boys don't play with bad girls. Good boys stay away from them bad girls. Them bad girls. Yeah.
And as I'm a bit of a perfectionist with this job, I was making sure that absolutely every single nook and cranny of this engine bay was clean and prepped, and I even went to the extent to clean behind the bulkhead.
Friends call me a dummy, 'cause she taking all my money, but I make it rain.
But I wasn't done there. I also had to prep the underside of the bonnet as well.
Leave me hurt. The next one just gonna do me worse. So if they all know good.
So that is the engine bay now completely prepped and ready for paint. It is looking immaculate in here. This did take me quite a while because I was very OCD with this. I even went behind sort of where there'll be like a panel covering this sort of back area, but I went and cleaned it all anyways because I'm OCD. And also, yeah, just every surface in this engine bay is now completely clean, scuffed up, ready for paint. And even the bonnet, underside of the bonnet I've done as well. It looks really good in here. But now that's done, there's another job I need to do, which is get the subframe on and put the drive shafts in, because this van needs to be able to roll into the paint booth. So we need to be able to put the wheels on, and we can't roll the van without a subframe. And then lastly, we also need to remove the windscreen, because this windscreen is damaged. So it's a good idea to take it out now before the paint job. So that's another thing we've got to do. Let's keep going.
So I could quickly whack on the subframe, the drive shafts and the wheels. And then Matt the windscreen man came over to remove our old windscreen. So Lav and I could now move on to the final stages of the prep, and we are very nearly there now. All that was left to do was to remove a few panels from the interior, as well as the sliding door. And there was of course a fair bit more scotching to do. But once we were finished up with all of the work, our van was finally ready to go and get painted. So the next step was to get the Caddy on the back of a recovery truck and take it to the paint booth. Once we arrived, we could take the Caddy off the truck and get it in the paint booth.
So the Caddy R has now arrived here in the world's biggest paint booth, and we're just getting everything off the car. We've taken the doors off, we're getting everything sort of hung up. But now I thought it would be a pretty good time to show you the colour we've gone for. It's a bit different. It's not a loud, leery colour like we did on the Volkswagen Fox or the Ford Fusion. It's a bit more understated, and I think you'll like it. Take a look. Now, I know this looks very dark on camera, it looks almost black, but it is a beautiful dark green. And the specific name of this is Dark Moss Green. I know in the previous video I said we'd go for British Racing Green, but I actually changed my mind because this is a bit darker, and I think a dark colour on the van will look really good rather than some bright leery colour. And also, this is actually a real Volkswagen colour, so it keeps with our OEM Plus theme that we're going for with this build. I think the next thing we've got to crack on with is a bit of masking.
So Lav and his mate Bailey could get started with completely masking up the van. And masking is a pretty time-consuming process because you've got to make sure that absolutely everything you don't want paint on is covered up. And also, masking isn't just as simple as whacking some tape down, it does take a bit of practice. And before starting with the paint, we firstly had to go around and make sure that everything was degreased properly. And the final step was to use an anti-static gun with a tack cloth to make sure there wasn't any dust left on the surfaces. But with that last prep stage now finished, Lav can finally start applying the paint, and the first layer is of course the primer layer. And for the colour that we're going for, we need to use a dark grey primer.
Okay, so the primer layer is now on the van, and I think it looks quite cool in dark matte grey, but our colour is going to look way nicer, and that is what we've got to put on next.
But before we can actually start painting the colour, we first got to get it mixed up in the mixing room.
So what are we doing in a minute?
We are going to mix up the base coat.
Is that putting the thinners in?
That is putting some thinners in.
Oh yeah, look at that. It's got like a blue in it, hasn't it?
It has got a fierce blue pearl in there.
I always feel like we're in an episode of Breaking Bad when we're in here.
We are.
Mate, did you remember the phenylacetic acid
Yeah,
and the methylamine?
put that in first. Ah, looks much greener now.
Yeah, it does look a lot greener.
So with our 96.2% chemically pure dark moss green paint now finally mixed up, Lav could begin getting it applied to our van. So after getting the first coat of the colour applied, Lav could then get the second and third coats on there as well.
So Lav is really getting there now with painting the van in this dark green, and it looks amazing. I know it's going to be a bit of a mixed bag in the comments. There are going to be some of you that think it's boring, some of you that don't like it, but that's just the nature of colours. Everyone has a different taste at the end of the day, but I really like this colour.
Now, we can finally show you the van's new paint job. So the next jobs, now the paint has dried, is to firstly unmask everything, and then we can bolt the doors and the bonnet back on the van so that we can then get it on the recovery truck and take it back to the unit. Okay, we're back, and the Caddy is looking absolutely beautiful. The more I look at this colour, the more I just absolutely love it. But now we have the big job of getting everything back together because, as you know, at the beginning of this video, we stripped everything apart to do this paint job, but now we've got to get everything back together. And by the end of this video, I want the Caddy to be a running, driving, perfectly functional van. A lot of times in the past when we've done paint job videos, we've left the engine out or we've not fully completed it. I want this to be fully back together. So Ollie has come back to give us a hand, and I think now he's going to crack on with the engine bay. So we are really on the home straight now with building the dream Volkswagen Caddy R. But there is still quite a lot to do in this last stretch, and if you're watching this video and you enjoy all of the work that we do on the channel, make sure to subscribe, because my YouTube analytics told me that 72% of you are currently not subscribed to the channel. That is most of you watching right now. So if you do enjoy the work that we do on the channel, subscribing helps massively, and you can always change your mind later on.
The night is calling. Tension, gonna blow in a breeze.
Okay, so Ollie has built back together the engine bay. Now, the next thing to do for him is to get the clutch. We've got a new clutch basically to put in the engine, and also some new belts as well, because it hasn't been done in a while, I don't think, and it's a good idea to do the belts now when the engine's out, because doing it when it's in the van will be an absolute nightmare. So that's the job, Ollie's job now, is to do a little bit of servicing. I'm going to move around to the back and start building up the rear end, so the lights and the rear bumper and all that sort of thing. So in order to remove the gearbox, Ollie firstly had to go around and undo all of the bell housing bolts, and meanwhile, I could take off the exhaust.
Oh, there we go.
There we go, got it.
There you go. Ta-da. Okay, now you're probably thinking, why am I taking the exhaust off? Let me show you.
These are our exhaust tips, and we made these before we purchased this bumper, and if you have a look, they're not the correct width. So annoyingly, we're going to have to make this section again with new exhaust tips that are a little bit wider that fit into the holes that are in this bumper. But now this is off, we can build up the rear bumper and the rear end. And to do that, I firstly needed to fit the crash bar, but as you can see, it looks pretty rusty, so I firstly had to get it on the vise, and then I could start wire brushing it down. Plan of action, wire wheel this, then paint it. But meanwhile, Ollie was still tackling the gearbox bolts.
There we go.
But as it happens, Ollie and I had to work together to get this gearbox off because the transfer case made it very difficult to remove.
Well, now you're stuck on that.
Oh, there we go. We got it. Do you know what? That's what made that so difficult.
For what reason as well?
There we go.
So after removing the old clutch, Ollie could go ahead and get our new one fitted. After installing the clutch, we could get the gearbox on, and let me tell you, getting this gearbox on was very difficult. It took us hours. But after finally getting the gearbox refitted, I could go back to refurbing the crash bar, and to do this I could finish off with the wire brushing. Then I needed to apply a layer of etch primer, followed by a bit of gloss black. And after that paint on the crash bar had dried, I could go ahead and get it bolted back on.
And everyone's going to be happy with us now we've done this. So next to go in is the tail lights, and these are our old ones, and I think these need a bit of an upgrade because they don't, I think they've got water in them. Can you see they've got water in them? Well, that's not even the reason I bought new ones, but I have got some way better ones. These are actually tail lights off the Mark IV Caddy, and they just look a lot nicer, so, and I think they're just plug and play. You can just plug them straight in, so let's get these in.
But firstly, I'd also bought a new brake light so we could get that fitted. And then the new taillights could go in.
Oh yeah, they like go in sideways. Oh mate, that is 10,000 times better than that. Like imagine that's there.
Oh yeah, look at that Povo spec to house in.
That's a rich man van.
That
spec.
really is.
That looks amazing, doesn't it?
That looks so much better. Yep.
There we go.
So next we need to focus on installing the engine. But before getting it in, we firstly got to replace the aux belt. Give on.
Nice one. That's the last thing we need to do. Engine in?
I think so.
Engine in.
So we are really getting there now. The next thing to do is for Ollie and I to crack on with getting the engine mounted up. So with the VR6 now mounted up in the engine bay, Ollie and I could smash out getting absolutely everything installed and connected up to get the van running and driving.
Air filter going in. Right, so that is everything, hopefully, mechanically back on the Caddy. That's the engine in, the drive shaft, subframe, exhaust, all the electronics, everything's connected up, and now we're just gonna try and start it again to see if we've not messed up and everything is done properly. So Ollie, whenever you're ready, give her a start. Clutch down.
Oh, nothing.
Let me have a look. And then just clutch down.
Clutch it down.
I think it's the same thing that's happening the first time we did this. So basically I think what's happening is there is potentially a loose connection on the ECU plug. So I'm going to check that and then we'll try again.
A few moments later.
Let's see if it starts. 3, 2, 1. Yes. Okay, that's good. That means we haven't done anything drastically wrong. Now we can continue with getting everything back together. Right, okay. Boom.
So after getting the indicators in, the next thing we could install was the rear bumper.
Do you reckon we need to open the doors?
Yeah, I think so.
Honestly, I think this rear bumper is game changing. It looks so good now it's fitted. And also, I just can't wait to get the exhaust tips remade so that this rear end looks complete. But next we could take off the old bronze wheels and put back on the Golf R Pretoria alloys. And I have to say, these look so good with the new colour.
Oh, he can't put a wheel on. Oh, I actually can't. Not been in the gym. Oh, his arms are literally shaking. Have you put a wheel on before?
Yeah, but I haven't lined up the bottom.
Oh, he's really struggling. This is the
You sent it in.
Oh yeah.
Oh, look at them. Aren't they so much better?
The next thing to fit on was the sliding door. as well as the door handle for it. Lav could fit on the tailgate trim piece as well. And then I could also fit on the fuel cap.
Hell yeah, done.
The front door handles also had to go in. And alongside the new taillights we fitted earlier, we've also got these new headlights which are going to massively upgrade how the Caddy looks from the front. So Ollie and I could crack on with getting these fitted as well.
That is our new headlights now fitted onto the van. What do you think, Toby? They're good, aren't they?
They look amazing.
I think they really modernise it, and with the taillights that are off the next gen Caddy and these headlights, this van looks a lot newer than it is. Okay, yeah, see if they go on. Oh! They look sick! Okay, so we are very nearly there now, but there are some more things I still need to show you because we've got some stuff that's just come back from 360 Alloys. Take a look at all of this stuff. It looks so good. Now, I didn't film the mammoth amount of prep that this bumper needed. Lav literally spent 10 hours doing this, and yeah, this was a nightmare to prep up, but the bumper now looks absolutely 10 out of 10. I'm really happy with it. We've also got some other bits, like the door mirrors. Those have been painted as well. And also, the side mouldings. Those have been colour matched and painted too. So we now can get the front bumper built back up, and then we can get all of these other parts fitted onto the van.
So again, a massive thank you goes to 360 Alloys for getting all of these last little bits painted for us so we could show you the finished product of the van in this video. If any of you need any wheel refurbishment or body work done to your car, make sure to check them out with the link in the description. So after getting our new colour matched side mouldings fitted, the next thing to do was to get the windows in with the regulators and all the window rubbers. And as I was doing my side, Ollie was also doing his side. But once we were both finished with that, the last things to go on the doors were the door mirrors. And then that was done and looking so good.
New, old. So much better, aren't they?
They look so much better.
The final job of the video to get done is to build up the front bumper.
So look. Whoa.
Whoa.
Hell yeah. Oh mate, the splitter makes it look so much better actually, doesn't it?
And then we can get it fitted to the Caddy to complete quite possibly the coolest build I have ever done on my channel.
So after quite possibly the most amount of work I've ever done in a video on my channel, the Volkswagen Caddy R is now almost done. It's not completely there, as you can see. It doesn't currently have a windscreen, and the brakes also still don't work because it needs some brake lines. So it's not currently running and driving, but the engine's in and it does run, and it is looking pretty much done. I mean, that just looks so good. Genuinely, the new headlights and the hybrid bumper and the new tail lights as well, and everything just makes this thing look genuinely so new. It looks like it could be a 2017 or a 2018. So yeah, I'm super happy with this van. This is my van.
And I call it the Caddy R because over the past few months, I've been building the performance version of the Caddy that Volkswagen never made.
Oh my God.
Now, our Caddy started off as a pretty boring 1.6 diesel work van. But since then, we've installed this 3.2 litre VR6 engine that you'll find in the Mark V Golf R32.
And on top of that, we fitted a load of different handling modifications like bigger brakes, new coilovers, and even an R32 style exhaust.
However, most recently we carried out a full paint job, transforming our fairly boring and standard looking Caddy to my dream custom van build, painted in dark moss green with various upgrades like a new front bumper, rear bumper, door mirrors, and even new headlights and taillights.
But today is the finale. In this video, we are going to finish off this build by completely overhauling the interior with a load of different modifications. And by the end of the video, you'll see the Volkswagen Caddy R finished for good.
Oh
my God. Okay, so the first place we're going to start is the dashboard. And the reason why I want to upgrade this is because firstly, it is very scratchy plastic. It's not very high quality or luxurious. And also it has no glove box. Also everything's made out of black plastic and it just doesn't look amazing. So there is a very good upgrade you can do to these. Let me show you. So this is a dashboard out of a Volkswagen Touran, and believe it or not, this is a direct fit into the Caddy, and it's a very common upgrade that people do to these vans for several reasons. Firstly, it is made out of this like squishy material, which is just so much better quality than the hard scratchy plastics that are in the Caddy. Also, we've got these nice sort of aluminium looking surrounds on the vents. The speakers look way nicer. There's also this like cubby hole, which isn't in the Caddy, which I can open up and show you. Look at that, that's very cool. And finally, this has a glove box, which we can install as well. So it's a really good upgrade, but first job is to get out the Caddy dash. You ready?
Yeah.
Have you ever removed the dash before?
On very old cars, yes.
I've never removed a dash in my life, so this is the first. We're gonna try to do it as quick as we can. Let's go.
So Ollie and I could get cracking with removing the Caddy's old dashboard. Now, between us, we've got pretty limited experience with removing dashboards, but our logic here was just to remove every single bolt we could find.
One center console piece out.
So I could get on with taking out the center console.
Center console out. Oh dear. All my money. All my profit.
Is that our wages for the month?
That is, yeah, that was what I was, that is it.
Meanwhile, Ollie was removing the instrument cluster.
There you go. Plugs are out.
Need clocks.
Clocks.
And he could also work on taking out the stereo.
Radio's coming out.
And as he was doing that, I was on the hunt to try and find any little bolt that might be holding this dash in. Ollie could also take out the climate control dials, and I was still undoing just every bolt I could see. And I'm not sure if we had to do this, but we did also remove the vents. And then the steering wheel also had to come out.
There we go.
Nice. Steering wheel off.
And with that, there were a few more bolts to undo, but the dash could then be removed.
Look at that, dashboard out. Finally. Okay, so the dashboard is now out, and there's something else I want to do now that dashboard is out because it'll be a lot easier, and that is to replace these rubber carpets on the floor. They're not very luxurious, and I would much rather have some nice proper carpets on the floor instead of these rubber mats.
And that is exactly what we've got. These carpets are just like the dashboard, and they are from the Volkswagen Touran, and they will just go straight into the Caddy as well. So to get these fitted, we can quickly remove the seat bases, and then the old rubber mats can be removed.
How has this even got in here? I mean, how has that accumulated? It's literally like someone's gravel driveway. Someone definitely lived on a gravel driveway.
So we could quickly hoover up all of the gravel that had somehow got underneath the rubber mat. And there was a little bit of surface rust here as well, so I tried to clean it up as best as I could with the wire wheel and a bit of paint. And then it was in with our lovely new Touran carpets.
Alright.
So now the carpets are in, Ollie and I could work on installing our new dashboard. Now getting this fitted is pretty much the exact same process as taking out the Caddy dashboard, but just in reverse.
That's solid.
Once we'd got the main screws in, Ollie could refit the instrument cluster. I could also plug in and install the top vent trim piece. with the small little storage compartment that sits on top as well.
Oh, that is so satisfying. This is so much better than the van dash.
Who needs a Rolls Royce when you got this?
Honestly, I can't believe how easy this has been to fit.
Yeah.
Like, this has literally been like, there was like 10 bolts holding the dash in.
Yeah.
How does it open?
Now, because the Caddy doesn't have a glove box from standard, the sort of metal framework that sits behind the glove box is actually slightly different, so I had to get out the Dremel and do a few cuts into the metal framework to make this glove box fit.
Whee.
Once that was done, we could then file down the metal and get the glove box installed.
Oh yeah.
There were still a few more bits to get in, like the climate control dials, and also this trim on the driver's side which has the headlight controls on it. There were some final trim pieces around the steering wheel and also around the sides of the dashboard that needed to be installed, but once that was done, the Touran dashboard was now fully fitted.
Okay, so that is our Touran dashboard and our Touran carpets in, and that has made the interior look 10,000 times better. I'm so pleased with it. But now we're done with that, you might also notice, actually, before I go on to that, we haven't fit our center console back in, and also we haven't fit our radio back in. The reason being is that we're waiting on some upgrades that we've bought from eBay to replace the normal center console and the normal radio. So those will be installed later. But for now, we have got to worry about these cream colored trim pieces that are in the roof. I think these would look loads better in black. I think a sporty Caddy R model should have black trim pieces. So the next job is to take all of those out and get them painted.
So we could go ahead and get cracking with removing all of the cream coloured trim pieces in the Caddy. So once all of the trims were out, we could quickly get them cleaned and prepped up, and then I could go over all of the plastic trims with some satin black paint, whilst Ollie was dyeing the headliner with some black carpet dye. And as we were finishing all of this off, the guys from Vision Windscreens came down to install the Caddy's new windscreen. So to get this installed, the first step is to apply this special sealant all the way around the edge of the windscreen, and then they can use these suction cups to carefully lift the glass into place.
Okay, so that is our interior trims now painted, and also our windscreen has been installed as well by the guys down at Vision Windscreens, so a massive thanks goes to them. But whilst the paint dries for our interior trims, I thought I'd show you the other modifications that we've got and install those too, so I'll show you now. So this is a Golf R steering wheel. As you can see, it's got a little R badge there, and that fits in with our Caddy R theme. I think this steering wheel is a huge upgrade from the standard Caddy steering wheel. In fact, the standard Caddy steering wheel is right there. Look at how awful that is in comparison to that beautiful masterpiece. So let's get this fitted.
So Ollie could crack on with the job of getting this new steering wheel fitted, and luckily it just bolts straight on, so it's nice and easy.
Sorted.
Perfect.
Mate, this looks sick.
That was, yeah, pretty easy install. It does just bolt straight on, but this is gonna need some programming later on, this steering wheel. So we're gonna go to a man later on in the video to go and get it all programmed in. But now I have another modification to show you. So here we have some upgraded door speakers for our Caddy. Now these are a massive upgrade from the standard speakers, and they actually have the correct plugs in them to just plug them straight into the Caddy wiring loom in the door. So these are going to be a really easy install. Now, annoyingly, our Caddy is actually the complete POV spec, well it was when it started, meaning it doesn't have the wiring to install the tweeters in the dash. So unless we did some custom wiring, it's not possible for us to fit the tweeters, annoyingly. So these are the only quick, easy install that we can do to upgrade the audio system, but it should be nice and easy, so let's get them in.
So the standard speakers in the Caddy are held in with all of these little rivets. So the first job to get our new speakers installed is to drill out all of these rivets so that we can take the old speakers out. And as I was doing my side, Ollie was doing his side.
And getting the new speaker fitted is as simple as riveting it into place and then plugging in the plug.
Finished. Look at that.
What's the first tune you're bumping in this?
It's got to be thinking, hit me baby one more time.
But yeah, cut it out. Cut it out.
That one is a tune, honestly. if you don't like a bit of Britney Spears, you're just lying.
I'm not a joyride, a hit and run. I thought I loved you and you thought I was fun.
Okay, so that is the speakers now fitted into the door cards. And a lot of you said in the previous video, to maximise the sound quality and the daily ability of the van, we should have put sound deadening behind here. But we actually did do that. I'll put some videos over the screen now so you can see we did put some sound deadening behind here. So alongside this speaker, the sound quality now should be really good. But something has just arrived that I want to show you that is the next part of the puzzle with our whole infotainment system. And it is this Kenwood. It's a big screen and it's going to allow us to run Apple CarPlay and allow us to run our music and Bluetooth and all that sort of thing. So first thing I'll do is we'll get all the wires connected up and we'll get this mounted in.
So the first thing to do to get our new stereo installed is to plug in the adapter harness, and then I can simply mount it up using 4 screws. We could also get the plastic trim cover back on. And then the final thing to do is to wire in the power wire into the fuse box using a piggyback fuse.
Watch this. The magic's, right, this is where my theory gets tested here. Yes! Let's go. I mean, for some people that's quite possibly the simplest piece of wiring ever, but I'm actually allergic to wires, so I'm well proud of that. Do you know what we need to do, Toby?
Go on.
Test the tunes.
Hey,
this sounds good. Hell yeah. Apple CarPlay. Take a look. That is now all of our apps. We've got Waze on there as well. Oh, this is so cool. I've actually never had Apple CarPlay ever. So this is actually a first for me. Something else I want to test quickly is to see if this microphone works. So, Toby, do you want to give me a phone call?
Yes.
And we'll test to see if that works. Toby, can you hear me?
I can, that sounds great.
Does it sound good?
That sounds amazing. That actually sounds like perfect quality.
This is good. Right, so we need to mount this up and just clean everything up, but that's pretty easy.
So now the stereo's in with working Apple CarPlay, we can move on to the next thing that I want to change, and that is these plastic pedals. And we'll be upgrading these to some lovely aluminium ones, so Ollie could go ahead and get these fitted.
Ow. And this one should just pop back in. We'll use the same method. She's on. New one going in. That feels pretty solid to me.
I'd say that's good.
So with the aluminium pedals now fitted, we can finally refit all of the plastic interior trims that have now been painted in black, and also the headliner as well. Now, before getting any of these parts installed, the first thing I wanted to do was to install a bit of sound deadening into the roof.
The thing is, Ollie, can I make a suggestion? This is not to say that I know better or that he's wrong, but I just think that possibly we could use the little halves of the silver ones.
No, look at that. Tell me that doesn't go pretty well.
That does go amazingly well. You are correct. However, I mean, only if you agree, but do you think that using the silver ones would be match?
You're annoying me now.
I obviously very much trust your judgment.
This is going on, I don't care.
Ollie, can I make a suggestion that we use this?
No. You're acting like this is a problem, but you're never going to see it.
That can't come off. So anybody who's going to be angry about us using a black piece when we have enough silver pieces.
I don't know if you know, there's a panel that goes there, so you're never going to see it.
With that decision made, I could then get the rest of the pieces stuck on.
Okay, that is the sound deadening now all fitted. Let's get the headliner in.
So Ollie and I could lift the headliner into the van and then get it fitted into place.
That looks really good, doesn't it? I think that's a big improvement.
It's missing starlights.
It's definitely not missing starlight.
Next to go in were the A-pillar trims, and as I was doing the driver's side, I could make sure to mount up the microphone for the Apple CarPlay on the side of this trim. And meanwhile, Ollie was doing the passenger side. There was also this big trim piece we had to install which sits above the front seats. We could also get the roof handles in. The sun visors could go in. And then also the light. Then there were a few more trims left to do that Ollie could finish installing. And then just like that, the black trims were fitted. So the next upgrades to install to the Caddy are these door cards. Now, just like a load of the other parts we've fitted in this video, these have come straight out of a Volkswagen Touran, and as you can see, they are a massive upgrade visually from the standard Caddy door card.
Okay, so fitting these new Touran door cards isn't actually as simple as just installing them. There's a little bit of cutting that we have to do, and I'll show you why using the old Caddy door card. Basically, if I put the two door cards at the exact same, so that's lined up on the back now. If you take a look, the Touran door card is a little bit longer, just on this edge, just there. So I've sort of drawn on with a Sharpie where I need to cut, and that's all we need to do, and then hopefully that will allow us to fit it.
So I could quickly get out the Dremel and just make that small cut in the door card. And then after briefly filing it down, I could then get the door card installed. And meanwhile, Ollie was doing the exact same thing on his side.
Okay, the next thing to go in the Caddy is this. It's an armrest, and again, like a lot of the stuff we're putting in here, it is out of a Volkswagen Touran. And the cool thing about this is that it has this cool armrest, which the Caddy center console doesn't have. I'll put some pans over what the center console in the Caddy looks like from standard, but this one's really cool. It has like a ratcheting armrest where you can like set the position, move it forward, and again, because we want this to be the best parts van in the world that's good at long journeys, this is going to make it way more comfortable. Now, if you follow me into the van, there are a few fabrication-y sort of things, well, just cutting we've had to do to be able to get this in. So if you take a look down here, we've had to cut out a little bit of this sort of back part of the Caddy. Ta-da! So that the center console can slide in, because it's a little bit longer than the Caddy center console, but now hopefully it should go in.
So Ollie and I could get on with installing this center console, and it did take a fair bit of persuasion and a bit of trial and error, but with that little section cut out at the back, this is a direct fit, so it wasn't too difficult. And then there were still a few more plastics to install. And because we're now almost done in the interior, we could also get the floors hoovered up as well.
Okay, so as you can see, the center console is in and all of the plastics are in and they're looking amazing, and we have just also hoovered the floors, so we're ready to get the R seats back in the Caddy. If you remember, in this video on the screen that I'm showing right now, we actually bought these Touran seat bases and also the R-line seats to put in the Caddy, and we can go ahead and put them back in now.
So to get these seats installed, it's again a really simple task. All we have to do is firstly bolt down the Touran seat bases. And once that's done, the R-line seats can be refitted, and there's just 4 bolts holding each of them down.
Cool, mate, look at how good this looks with the armrest. Like, that's going to be so nice on a long journey, isn't it? This is cool. So we've got our center console. That is going to make, actually, that is going to make a huge difference. I love that. It's also good because you can put it away if you don't want it as well. Now that's done, we can take this on its first drive, since we did the engine swap originally, and go and take it to get everything programmed.
So before taking our Caddy out on the roads, we of course firstly had to get the number plates fitted.
Just a minute. Right, we're eyeballing it.
That was pretty good.
Right, the most important thing is that the brakes work. we can stop. First time driven, mate. This feels so much more executive now.
It does look way better with that steering wheel.
It looks so much better. Mate, it's almost done. It's so nearly done. So with the Caddy driving amazingly, our first stop was actually the exhaust company, because if you remember, the Caddy doesn't actually have any exhaust tips currently. And this is just simply because the exhaust tips were the wrong width. So what we have to do now is to get the Caddy up on the ramp, and then we can modify the old exhaust tips to fit the cutouts in the new bumper. So after chopping off the exhaust tips, all Josh is going to do to make this work is to do a bit of measuring, and then he can weld in a bit of extra stainless pipe into the exhaust tips to increase their width. And once Josh was done adding this little section into the exhaust tips, he could then test fit them, and of course, they fit perfectly. So that's now the exhaust tips ticked off the to-do list, and now we can actually drive the Caddy from Reading all the way up to Hemel Hempstead to go and get some programming done. And the first things we want to sort out are the tail lights. So to get these working properly, Claudio has firstly got to do a bit of wire repinning for the tail light plug. And once the driver's side was done, he had to do the same process again on the passenger side tail light. And once he's done that, he can upload the software to the Caddy, and just like that, our taillights are now working perfectly. Now, something else that Claudio's got to do for us is to program in the steering wheel. Now, this is going to be really important for another modification we're doing slightly later on, and to do this, he's got to strip apart the whole steering wheel area. And then he can install a little electronic chip called an emulator.
That is the emulator.
Oh, that's the...
Yeah, this is basically translating the commands from your steering wheel to the commands on the van. So basically,
got it.
The translator.
That's the magic key, basically.
Yeah.
And once that's in, he can get it all back together. And then Claudio could finish up with a bit more programming. And after he'd done that, the steering wheel was now communicating with the van, meaning that all of the buttons on the steering wheel now work, and also the lights on the steering wheel were working as well. But now that's done, the final thing to do is to go and take the Caddy from Hemel Hempstead all the way up to Stansted to go and get the final modifications installed to the van. And trust me, these are the best ones of this video. So I brought the Caddy all the way up here to Paint 2K in Stansted, and you might be wondering, why did I do this? Well, you see, Mike here is the Caddy wizard, and when I told him about my plans to completely overhaul the interior, he told me of 2 upgrades that he absolutely had to do to the Caddy that would completely transform it. So trusting that he had a good plan in mind, I left the Caddy R with him for a few days, and this is what he did. Good to see you, man.
How you doing? You alright?
Yeah, excited. Do the honours. Let's have a look.
Oh, nice,
my god.
Yeah, I like this.
That looks insane. Bro, you are actually a magician. Look at the spotlights. Mate, you've absolutely smashed this out of the park. Mate, I can't believe you did a floor on it as well.
Yeah,
like, how have you done this in 2 days?
That's as good as done.
Ladies and gentlemen, take a look at the back of the van. So not only has Mike completely carpeted the rear of our van, but he's also installed spotlights, a ceiling, and even a tiled floor. I'm not even joking. This is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Look at this. Look at this.
It's proper finished it off, hasn't it? Like,
it has properly finished it off. Oh, we haven't even seen the dash yet. We haven't even seen the dash.
Gets better.
Oh my god, look at that. So not only did Mike completely transform the rear, he's also installed this digital dash, which is absolutely game-changing for the daily ability of this van. What do you think, Ollie?
That literally changed it so much. It feels so much nicer in there now. That digi dash is so cool.
Isn't it? Unreal.
It's gonna be unreal now.
So Mike could show me around how to work this Digi Dash, and that's why it was so important to get this steering wheel coded in, because the buttons on the steering wheel control the Digi Dash. And there is so much stuff to play with on this dash, from all of the colours to loads of different rev gauges. It is just so cool.
Okay, we're back, and the Caddy R drove so well on the way back home, and I had a little bit of a play around with the digital dash. And there are so many pieces of information that you can show up on this, like your miles per gallon, your oil temperature, coolant temperature, so many different pieces of data that the ECU reads, this dash can show you, which is so cool. But that is the last modification we're going to be doing to the Caddy R. It is now completely finished, so all that's left to do is to show you the final product. So there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. The Volkswagen Caddy R is done. The build is complete. Now, it is going to be really sad to see this van go. I really don't want to, but it is just the right decision to push the channel forward. And I know one of you watching is going to absolutely love this van. But with that said, I will catch you all in the next one.